evening, everyone. Time is now 6 p.m. and the Spring Lake Board of Commissioners work session is now called to order. I do ask that you silence all cell phones and please keep side of our conversations to a minimum. Now, it is my honor and privilege to invite Reverend Albert, former mayor of Spring Lake, to the podium to lead us in our invocation and pledge of allegiance. Please stand and join us if you choose to.
Good evening. It is such a pleasure to be standing here tonight, and thank you all for the invitation. To Mayor Anthony and the board, thank you for your service, for your love of this community, and what you're doing. We pray that you will do even greater things. Let us pray. Heavenly Father, we come to thank you for this day and for the many blessings that you have bestowed upon us. Father God, as we assemble on tonight, we desire your presence, dear Lord, that we, everything that is said and done, fitting in your sight, dear Lord, that we might all move in this town together, that we might move it forward. So bless this board, dear Father, bless the officials and the members, dear Lord, of this wonderful community, that Father God, we may be one, as they say, one band, one sound, one movement, one mission. Bless us and keep us, dear Lord, that whatever is done will be to strengthen this community through the bonds of love, faith, and compassion. We ask in your Son's name. Amen.
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 I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, sir. I'll now call for any additions or deletions to the agenda. Mayor Pro Tem.
Yes, Mayor. I'd like to add closed session pursuant to NCGS 143.318.11A3, attorney-client privilege.
Are there any others? We will add that as agenda item 9A, closed session for attorney-client privilege. I entertain a motion to approve the agenda. Commissioner Chadwick?
I make a motion to approve the agenda, consent items. I'm sorry, the agenda. We'll close session.
Commissioner Palacios?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. We'll now entertain a motion to approve the consent items, the draft minutes of the April 14th, 2025 regular meeting, our quarterly reports, budget amendment 18, and our minimum housing application to reappoint Chris Shara, and to appoint Ms. Mary Jackson and appoint Ms. Kay Allen. Is this supposed to be Board of Appeals for, or is it supposed to be Military Veterans Affairs? Is Board of Appeals?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, awesome.
I appreciate the help.
Mayor Pro Tem.
So moved.
Commissioner Thompson.
I second.
Any discussion? Are you fine? I do have one recommendation for our quarterly reports, if we could turn them, or get them to not use dark backs or something. It's very hard to read this.
Yeah,
Maybe.
Thank you.
yeah.
If I have 20/20 vision, I'll know what I would do. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. We're moving on to our public comments. We do ask that you pay attention to the screens above. It will note the time that you have allowed for your comments, and just so you know, the board will not be able to respond to your comments during public comments. Ms. Singford, you are first. Please address, first podium, state your name and address for the record. Katie.
Praise the Lord, everybody.
Amen.
Thank you. My name is Betty Sanford,
And I live at 104 Waukegan Drive, right here in Spring Lake, North Carolina. Been here for about 50 years. Okay? All right. Now, I'm just repeating some of these things, and I'm looking for them to happen soon, because I feel like if we're gonna be taxing and then getting our water bill up a little higher, then we ought to be able to get our roads fixed. Because I don't want my tires messed up. Okay? And when I say I'm talking about the community. I'm talking about the town of Spring Lake. And those poles, they're still up there, but I found out what to do. And I'll go ahead and get it done. The other thing is, the trash cans, why are they on the side of the road once they've been picked up? We need to find these people that don't take their trash cans and put them off the road, take them off the road. You know, we need to do that. The other thing is, all these cars parked all over in all the yards. Sometimes there are 3 and 4 and 5 cars parked in yards, and it's not paid. They need to find somewhere else to park the cars. Affordable housing. There are so many people that don't have a nice, decent place to live. We try to help them. When I say we, I mean me and other people. Try to help people find nice places to live. And we should be able to afford to help people to find places. We need to get affordable housing here in Spring Lake. Not only that, we need to get things here for the children to do, instead of going to Fayetteville to do all these games and things. The other thing is, you got all these old houses and trailers. See, I ride the neighborhood. I ride all over Spring Lake. And I see all these houses, some of them are all torn down. They got all these big holes in the houses and stuff like that. We shouldn't have that. This is our town. We got to step it up. And I see some of you looking at me quite cross-eyed, but I'm serious. I've been here for about 50 years. And I've never seen it quite this bad. So we got to step it up. Okay? And I mean it. All right. That's it.
Thank you. Thank you.
You got 1 minute.
Mr. Reggie Thompson, please approach the podium, state your name and address for the record.
Hello everybody, I'm Reggie Thompson. I reside at 1008 Diane Circle. I've been on Diane Circle for probably 55 years because I bought that house that's there. My parents' house is 1004 Diane Circle, so I've been on that street 55 years, so I have a lot of investments in my life. But my issue is real quick. One thing, the phone system, trying to reach somebody, the phone system is still terrible. You just can't reach anybody. The second issue is the debris pickup. So about a month ago, so I had been out of work. I had prostate cancer and I had to have my prostate removed. So I had been out and had worked in 2 months. So I was outside, had some limbs and stuff cut down in my yard, and had the guy put them out to the end of my driveway or the end of my yard. And I met the guy that comes and picks it up, and I said, "Hey, don't tear my yard up," which he did a little section of it. Got that, and went to the front yard, got all that good. When he came back about 2 weeks ago, he actually tore my front yard up with those forks. And I usually take all of my debris and rake it into the street the day before he comes. I couldn't do that this time because I was, like I said, I just had surgery. Now I called. Finally, somebody came out, and he said, "Oh, that was already there." No, that wasn't already there. My front yard looks terrible. So he came out with some grass seed and some red dirt, clay stuff with rocks and everything, threw it over there, threw it in my yard, and it just looks terrible. It's not going to grow. There's no sense in me keep trying to water. It's not going to grow. It's not going to grow with red dirt. And I've called, and he came back out there. He said, "Oh, this is the best we can do." It's just unacceptable because it's a big patch. I got it here on my phone if you want to see it. And I'm sure if it was any of you all's yard, that you would have something to say about it too. Because the forks, when he come in there with it, just tore my grass up. Just completely tore a big patch in probably this section here. why do I have to go and spend money trying to water this right here with our water bills already high? Why do I have to try to come and spend this? Like I told the guy before he came out there, if you can't tear, if you have to tear my yard up, just don't pick it up, is what I told him. And I just wasn't home the day he came, and that's the results that I had. Anybody want to see it?
You can make sure that those get sent to the clerk and we can have them emailed to the board so that we can see them.
Okay, thank you.
All right, we will move on to, we have no presentations today, so, new business, agenda item 8A, budget amendment 19, Mr. Overton.
Good evening. A couple of years ago, we received a grant of $500,000 from the Department of Environmental Quality. The original intent of this grant was to make some repairs and renovations to the wastewater treatment plant due to damages from Hurricane Florence. However, that grant, FEMA also covers those repairs and expenses, so that was duplicate. Mr. Roy requested that we change the scope of this grant and use it to repair Regina Street and Mack Street sewer lines, to replace or repair those lines. And DEQ granted that. We also received approval of another additional $300,000 to help with this project. And this budget amendment is two purposes: to add the additional $300,000 and to change the scope from wastewater treatment plant repairs to replacing these two sewer lines. The one negative is that would give us a total of $825,000 to repair these lines. Unfortunately, the bid to do both streets was about double that, about $1.6 million. So he did bid it, he did quote it by so many feet of sewer line. So what we would do is take this $800,000 and replace either Mack Street or Regina Street as far as we can. And we'll have to seek additional funding to do the other street. I forget which street Deanna said was in worse shape, but they were about the same. Okay. I request your approval to change the scope of the project and add $300,000 to it.
Well, this is a good budget amendment. I'm excited about that additional $300K. Trying to look at that half full glass, not half empty. We got half the money, so we're almost there. So that's a good thing. Mayor Pro Tem?
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. Overton, when we do you remember what year we received this money?
The $500,000. Oh, we haven't received, this money is, I don't remember what year the grant was actually awarded. We haven't received the money. Because DEQ, you spend the money and then they reimburse you. The Office of State Management and Budget, those grants for Muntzberg Park, Veterans Memorial, and the computers, those are the ones that are funded in advance.
Okay.
But all DEQ, you have to spend the money first and then request reimbursement.
Okay, and then, my other question was, did we only get one bid? Is that what it sounds like?
Yes, ma'am. We put it out for bids the first time, we got no bids. The second time, we only got one bid, and it was double the amount that we, the engineer had estimated. He had estimated somewhere between $800,000 and $900,000, and the bid was right at $1.6 million.
Okay. So the engineer, when did he give us that estimate?
Well, I saw it about 2 weeks ago. We had, excuse me, when we had the bid opening. I think Deanna had seen it a little earlier than that.
I had seen it since I've been here for a year.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, it was based on a conversation with the EQ in terms of rolling out these grant projects. And so that's where, in opinion of probable cost, Unfortunately, a lot of things have went up.
Okay. Okay, so, thank you, Ms. Stanford. So, 2 weeks ago, you're saying DEQ said it was about 800,000.
No, I'm saying over a year ago.
Oh, over a year ago, okay, that makes sense. Okay, so that makes a lot of sense, all right. Are we able to even go back to them and see if they are willing to do a little bit more for,
That's where we got the 300,000.
okay, all right, thank you.
Are there any other questions, concerns from the board? I will now entertain a motion to approve budget amendment 19, Mayor Pro Tem.
So moved.
Commissioner Chadwick.
I second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right, agenda item 8B, discussion regarding our strategic plan. Mr. Rory?
Mayor, Lord, please forgive me for reading to you a little bit, but I think it's very important for us to kind of frame and set the stage of what we're talking about in terms of strategic plan. I have 4 topics I will be discussing tonight, and they are all related in some form or fashion. So it will be long, but it is important for us to grasp where we're at as that community. And so this will be available, and I will put it on the website. My goal is to have the board adopt this by resolution as our strategic plan going forward. I have no idea what next year looks like or the year after that looks like, but I do know that we've spent a considerable amount of time trying to figure out what some of these things that we will be dealing with daily, and we continue to work towards that end. And so, rather than read a lot of the stuff, everybody recognizes that there's been this thing called the Great Recession, and that caused local governments to make some decisions. Those decisions, in terms of everything from property values to sales tax, led to a lot of decisions being made that essentially kind of kicks the can down the road. You've heard that expression before. So there's no reason to rehash that, but you will hear it from time to time. But we have met over 3 or 4 different meetings beginning in February-ish timeframe to discuss what our strategic priorities would be. And I would like to talk about what those strategic, what the 4 top strategic priorities are, as well as the objectives and initiatives associated with each one of those strategic priorities. I will rank them in terms of number of how they ranked 1, 2, 3, and 4, with the number 1 priority being, let me get there, I'm sorry, just slowly moving here. Strategic focus area number 1 is a safe, reliable, and sustainable water and sewer and stormwater system. This is the primary focus as determined by our board. Any input that we could have when we have these public open meetings, as well as staff looking at what we have going on. You'll notice in here that I've written, and I took the liberty of trying to create what I refer to as a impact team. This stuff is so big and so huge that I can't do it alone. I need a considerable amount of help to include staff and the board and residents. You just appointed tonight people to serve on the minimum housing field board. There's a reason for that, okay? This isn't just some offside thing that we're doing. It's all connected to what we're trying to accomplish. So you'll notice I took and put the fire chief on there. Marvin Lackman is the Spring Lake Commissioner. David Honeycutt is an AIA consulting engineer with McGill Associates. He is the engineer in charge of these things like the Regina project, those grants. And so I want him to be included because they're currently doing the AIA assessment of our entire infrastructure. He's provided us a letter of support, basically saying that we need somewhere to the tune of $80 million of repair and upgrades to our water and sewer infrastructure. $80 million. Let that resonate for just a second. $80 million. And so that's how we circle back to decisions that we make today affect decisions in the future. And what we don't do are eventually we're going to have to deal with it. So when you kick the can down the road, it eventually comes back and we got to deal with it. So that first initiative, or the objective is to provide ongoing maintenance of system infrastructure through rehabilitation, replacement of capital assets, based on regular assessment of their condition. What is not known is that I completed the water operations budget today, budget request, and it's about $274,000 over budget because of fixing stuff. In this case, water leaks, sewer problems, sewer backups. So we have spent a considerable amount of funds out of the water and sewer fund to fix stuff. It's not gonna go away with that one expense. And so we'll have to budget next year. The board has already addressed this issue back in December by increasing the water and sewer rates by 17%, I think it was. And the idea there was to fund these system improvements, upgrades, and in this case, what we mean by system improvements and upgrades is just fixing things that's falling apart. It's just that simple. There ain't no reason to dress it up. It's falling apart. The initiatives develop an asset management system plan, research potential funding sources for infrastructure improvements. That's the grant process I'm talking about. Consider contracting with private operator to manage the operations. I'm in conversations with different people who would like to submit an RFP to manage our water and sewer operations, try to create some economy of scale by sharing assets that allows us to do it at some level of reduced cost, but also high quality. For water and sewer services purchased from others, analyze lost revenues from system leakage or excess costs incurred from inflow. Basically what that is that anything that gets into our systems, we have to treat it at the sewer plant. Anything that leaks out of our system, we have to buy it, whether it's going to somebody's house. We're currently billing for about 60% of our purchase.
Water, yeah.
Right, so water, we're billing 60% of what we purchase. So where's the other 40% going?
Water maker.
Okay, so there's different things we've got to periodically inspect and evaluate the facilities for capital maintenance planning. This is all stuff that should be done anyway. Objective 2, ensure the utility is economically sustainable long-term by current projected customer basis. Just today, another conversation was about the, how do you bring on ratepayers or people to tap into the system. So we made a decision not to annex outside the city limits, outside the town limits a couple weeks ago. And now they're coming to us for rezoning. So it's outside the town of Spring Lake. And they want to rezone it from residential to a commercial use to develop a strip mall. And they want to utilize the water from Spring Lake, septic, sewer. And so basically, they're going to build a strip mall outside the city limits that creates retail vacancy inside the city limits, while at the same time utilizing the resource paid by everybody in the city limits. That makes zero sense to me.
No.
So that's where we're at, okay? So that's what it means to talk about, look at the sustainable, the customer basis. Where's it going and how's it growing? You gotta be very aware of it. I can't see taking our sewer capacity and giving it away when people have already paid for that capacity. It's another thought process that we have to deal with when we start talking about sustainable, long-term projected customer basis and what that means to our systems. Page plays blank intentionally. Strategic focus area number 2, revitalize town infrastructure. Commissioner Palacios, Lynn Hickman, Planning and Zoning Specialist, Harold Jarman, Police, Derek Mabe, Alliance Code Enforcement. We're building this team. You'll notice that my name is on every one of them. I will be in every meeting, just focused on what these objectives are, what these initiatives are, to keep them going. Identify funding options for revitalization efforts from private and public sources. That all sounds good, but somebody's got to work it. I can't do it. I'm not here applying for grants all day. I got a host of other things. Someone's going to have to take and jump in and champion some of these causes. Under private partnership, those are just initiatives with it. Objective 2, decrease blighted properties in the community by use of available legal options. We hear about these things. To date, all right, the police department has done an assessment of our entire community, 2 of our 4 zones, and we have identified over 100 blighted properties in the community. I've met with the county tax collector to talk about what legal available options are for the town to take action on this. And there are a lot of places where the roof is falling in. That is thy neighbor, all right? It is affecting your property. It is affecting the things that happen in this town, from crime to whatever it may be. That is thy neighbor. So how do we address these issues? You see a junk pile in the front yard. We are not and do not have the authority to just take a pickup truck, go in somebody's yard and start picking up junk pile. Just don't work that way. All right? Just don't do it. We don't have, and I'll talk a little bit more about that when we get into code enforcement later. But this is a big issue for this town. The blighted property throughout is a huge issue for this town. Focus area number 3, safe, vibrant, healthy community. And a lot of times we talk about, right there you look at the initiative to provide highly responsive public safety services that reduce the occurrences and severity of crime and accidents in the community. That's not about hiring police officers. It's not about hiring firefighters. It's about anything and everything you can do to enhance public safety. If you're coming into town, you're talking about walking on a sidewalk instead of walking in the middle of the street. You know, everything that you do to try to enhance public safety throughout the community. But it talks about Initiative 1, evaluate our public safety staffing and facility needs to verify that they provide the desired safety level. You got to start with asking, what are we trying to achieve? All right? Not just doing, but what are we trying to achieve? What are we trying to accomplish with every resource that we have? Objective 2, preserve and increase the supply of housing for all income groups. This is still part of that same focus area, safe, vibrant, and healthy community. So preserve and increase the supply of housing for all income groups. How do you do that? Right? How do you do that? These are going to take a champion. It's going to take the minimum housing board to deal with the blight. You know, how do you convert? How do you take and convert those things to usable space as opposed to unusable space? So you got 100 blighted properties. How do you convert them into something that's affordable? That's the question. What do you do? You know, tearing them down is just not the solution. Well, what do you do? How do you put all these pieces together? And so you'll notice up there that I think I got, he's out here in the crowd now. Terry Mitchell's out there. I put him on that one. We could definitely use your help, Terry, without a doubt. Of course, Commissioner Cooper, Mayor Pro Tem Thompson. It takes all. There's a citizen housing group committee, this is that minimum housing appeal board that you talk about, or others, okay, to deal with it. Focus area number 4 is economic development. Initiate curb appeal. Maintain infrastructure and amenities that are attractive and necessary to economic development. This is maintaining your parks, maintaining your streets, maintaining your sidewalks, maintaining City Hall, everything, all right, that comes into this. At the end of the day, all of it circles right back around to these 4 objectives. And how do you take it? If you increase public safety, is that something that's attractive for people who want to come and live here, want to open businesses here? I am keenly aware of I think it's the PD Quicks maybe that's closed down there, and then that shopping center. So a lot of vacant storefronts. Why aren't they full? You need head counts. You need people. You got to have a community where people want to live, right? In order to have those head counts. We can talk all day about the things that we want, but at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what we want. It matters on the people who want to live here want. And they're only going to get it if there's enough of them to take and demand. The market's going to demand certain things. Establish an economic development program, comprehensive toolkit of policies and programs. We talk a lot about historic tax credits. We talk about tax abatement strategies. There's something known as the Standard 1010, in which you have a minimum investment in the community, and you can take and have a minimum amount of jobs that come with that investment in the community, and then you can take and stave off some of the taxes for a 10-year period. We don't even have those toolkits in place that I'm aware of. So, what are we gonna do long-term when we start talking about economic development? If you get the feel, when you look at these 4 focus areas, they are all connected. One does not stand alone. You can add a whole bunch more to it, but one is not a standalone issue. We gotta deal with them collectively and holistically. So I just wanted to brief everybody on this document. I know I've shared it with you. I want to bring it back to you to have the board adopt or not adopt by the form of a resolution. At the end of the day, we have less than 90 employees. They're all doing this, that, and the other thing. We have frozen 4 police officers' positions, 6 firefighters' positions, eliminated staffing at front desk. We're all trying to figure out how to pay for all of these things that have to happen. And how do you do it, and how do you put it together? And I can tell you that in a large case, after 1 year, I want to make sure that we're not spinning our wheels, that we're focused on the things that the board wants us to focus on. The board, not an individual, the board wants us to focus on. Because we have to be very clear to where we engage on all of these topics. And I'll follow up and you'll get a better understanding of that as we go through these additional topics. So it is my request that I bring this back to you for adoption by resolution on the next meeting, which will be
May 12th, I think.
Yeah, we'll publish this, we'll put everything out there, this is what we're working on, we'll begin to ask for help, things of that nature.
Sounds good. Yeah, May 12th.
Any questions or comments from the board? Thank you for all the work that you put in. This has been a pretty fun journey. It's a different way we've done strategic plans in the town. This time we actually got to sit down with staff, board, and residents to develop this plan. So it's very comprehensive and it's not single-sided. It's hearing from the community, hearing from the staff who's got boots on the ground with the input from the board. So I'm excited about what this is going to do for our next few years. Setting that framework for where we're going next. So thank you again for putting this together. Mayor Beckham?
Thank you, Mayor. I also want to say thank you to Mr. Ward, because this has been, I think for many of us, a labor of love. We have worked with staff, we've worked with ELT, we've worked with the North Carolina League of Municipalities, who helped us put this all together. And so, we're looking forward to also working with citizens. And so you see who's on your impact teams. So those are the people you would be talking to about any of these things on the strategic plan once it's adopted.
Definitely, because I believe everything that was mentioned in our public comments are things that we are actively addressing in our strategic plan. So it's perfect timing that you guys came to address those things, because we're actively looking at them right now. Commissioner Palacios?
Yeah, we were talking about the water and sewer rates that we raised a couple months ago to 17%. I think we did that in December to be active in January. But so I'm looking at this financial report snapshot on the last page for water and sewer fund. I was curious, I know you mentioned it again tonight, the amount of water that's running through the pipes that we're not billing because of the leaks. So, but I was trying to figure out where on this report it was showing the amount of water was paying out for, Hart County and PWC.
It does, that's part of the budget document, we can make sure that's included for you.
Okay. So the water revenues based on this are at 77%, 80% respectively for water and sewer that we collected in bills.
That's based on the year of consumption, not necessarily the bills. And so it's based on a 12-month running period. And so you collected at, how many months is that?
Based on what we budgeted for.
9 months.
9 and multiplied by 8.3, and that gives you a percentage of where you should be so far.
Yeah.
Or what your expenses should be as well as your revenues.
So we brought in, okay. So we brought in, what's this? 1.717, so that's, my brain is shut down right now, Ms. Fullerton. 1.7 million times 2, we're at 34,000. or 34 million, or 3.4
3.1
million.
million.
I'll get there. All right, that we've collected, yeah, so I was just curious about how much of that you've spent on just the cost of the water itself.
All right, I can answer that. So far, through the 9 months, ended in March, we have spent, 1.2 million to buy water from Harnett County and Fayetteville Public Works. That is more than we spent all of last year.
In 9
Okay.
months.
In 9 months. We have 3 months because that was why you had a $300,000 budget amendment last time to buy water for the next 3 months. So we're gonna probably end up with about $1.5 million for the year
Yeah,
to purchase water. Historically, the cost of water has been between 50 and 60% of our revenue, okay? So far this year, it's 70% of our revenue. And the revenue's still more than we're charging, that doesn't give us enough to pay for repairs and salaries and everything else. But, the volume of water last month was not as bad. It was still over 20 million, but it was not nearly as bad as it was the 2 months prior, because, Deanna and Jason and their crew, they have fixed some of the leaks, and they spent a lot of money doing it, but they haven't fixed them all. But the consumption was down a little bit last month. But it was $1.2 million so far this year. Thank you.
thank you.
Any other questions or comments from the board? All right, we'll keep moving right along with our discussion regarding our capital improvement plan, Mr. Roy.
This is a nightmare. And so forgive me for starting off with this little excerpt from our minutes, but I think it's important to focus on the past because that's how we can predict the future. In this case, I know that you can read it, but in case the audience cannot. Chief McDuffie requested the board approve the purchase of 2 new police vehicles to replace 2 aging high mileage and high maintenance vehicles that are part of the current fleet. Alderman Higgins expressed concern about passing the budget just a month or so ago and already doing 2 budget amendments. He would like for us to get a better handle on what our finances look like before we approve his request. Alderwoman Sutherland also expressed the same concern, inquired about the urgency of this purchase. She remembers being told that during the budget process that the police department could make do for this budget cycle without getting the vehicles. Mayor Pro Tem O'Gara stated he believes we need to take care of the police department, follow recommendation of town manager, police chief. Alderwoman Lucas asked about the timeline to purchase these vehicles and express support for the police department. This is dated 2014. These are the minutes from 2014, so 10 years in the making. And here we are having the same conversation. What we're trying to think about is how do you, a capital improvement program, replace your equipment, your apparatus, your fire trucks, your police cars, your backhoes, your whatever it may be, public works vehicles, revenue from the water department, the very trucks that they go to read the meters with. You have to replace those from time to time. And you need to have that set up on a capital improvement plan or replacement schedule so that it's not a month-to-month, year-to-year decision. You need to forecast and have a long-term view of what that capital improvement plan looks like. So we've spent the better part of the last 2 months identifying all of our assets when it comes to our fleet. So our conversation tonight is really about fleet, not about buildings. That's another component, okay? Not about lawnmowers and weed eaters. That's another component, but about our fleet. And so we went through, we actually found some items like, well, what is that? Well, it's something we don't need anymore. Then let's surplus it. Let's get rid of it. Okay? We're not going to use it. We have a rescue truck that I'm going to focus on a little bit that we actually thought the numbers were wrong. So we had to read them 2 or 3 times to go, you got to be kidding me. So the purpose is to look at our rolling stock, our fleet, and come up with a replacement cycle. You can't see all these little things. You see one that says John's Capital Department. One I want to talk about is this department update right here. And so I sent this to staff and told them that they had to figure out everything that could be cut above the line. And they responded to me, well, John, everything is above the line. Exactly. Because what this does is it looks at your rolling stock and it measures mileage, engine hours, things like that, that usually leads to low reliability or high maintenance costs. So I don't think you want a fire truck running lights and siren, being seen 1,000 feet, seen and heard 1,000 feet, on something that is likely to break down or the wheel fall off in emergency traffic. So you're making decisions on what is an emergency apparatus, what is a routine apparatus, something that if it breaks down, you're set off a little bit, but it's not that big a deal. If it's a big deal, but it's not that huge. And you're trying to put these things into a cyclical replacement cost. So just by way of colors, if you don't mind, I did it this way so you can get an idea for it. At the top of the list is the department. And so if it's yellow, it is a general fund item. If it is blue, it is a utility fund item. So you have two different funds, general fund and utility fund. So a blue pickup truck would be purchased from the utility fund, hence an enterprise fund, hence the revenues and the rates that you charge associated with the delivery of that program. If it's a yellow item, it is a general fund. Keep in mind that the big three, when it comes to the general fund, are police, fire, and public works. I'm not talking about public utilities, but public works, streets guys. They're all general fund, and they're the big three in any community. They consume large capital, large labor. All right? So if you look at that top red line, that top one right there, that's blue, you'll notice it's strike through. Police chief says, yeah, we don't need that club wagon from 1995. Sitting over in the parking lot.
Where was that?
I still haven't seen it. I still haven't seen it, but we don't need that. So that's where they come into play. They know the assets they have out there in the field. I don't know where all of them are. But then the next one down there is a 1995 Ford Super Duty bucket truck. Well, here's the thing. Do you know what that truck is used for? I'm getting ready to hurt somebody. Banners. That's about it. Okay? Yeah, you could cut a limb off a tree with it, things like that. And so the cost for that truck is, right, to purchase that is about $100,000. So what do you do, right? What do you do? So you have to decide, what are we trying to accomplish? I'm not suggesting that the banners aren't important. What I'm suggesting is we have to figure out a better way to do it. Okay, we just can't go buy capital assets and then maintain them and do different things with it. The next one on there is that red one. That's the 1999 E1 rescue truck. It has, the vehicle mileage is 185,000 miles and 86,000 engine hours. Chief, can you help me for a second? Tell me what your thoughts are on that one. Stand up so everybody can hear you.
That is way past where we need to be with it. That's in dangerous areas on there. It's way too many miles, way too many engine hours. We've spent a lot of money just trying to keep it running. It's a lot.
And those are statutory requirements, right? That's not like what Spring Lake wants. That's required by law.
Yeah, that's bad.
There, what do you mean by that, Mayor?
That mileage you're required to replace after a certain amount of usage.
No, there is no law that addresses that. There are recommendations through NFPA that people typically say is a law, but it's not. And so you have to replace this apparatus after 20 years. So even at that, 1999, 2009, 2019, we're at 25 years. So in that case, yes, we're exceeding the recommended replacement schedule from the National Fire Protection Association. But it's not necessarily a statutory law that they have to replace it.
Got it.
But the engine hours, 86,000 engine hours, how many hours is that running? Every day for how long?
I think we figured that up. It was like, something crazy, like 30 years. It was a long time.
All right, so, now you go to the 2025 purchase price to replace that rescue truck, it's $1 million. As we go through this, I want you to think about that one truck, that one truck, that one truck is $1 million. If I say, Jimmy, what does it take for me to use debt as a tool, buy one rescue truck at $1 million and finance it for 10 years? He'll say it'll cost you about $110,000 a year. So that in and of itself for that one rescue truck is going to capture greater than 1 cent of your tax revenue. Okay? So you're looking at right now we're looking at about 70,000 per penny. And so to get to 110, you're not quite, but about 1.5, somewhere in that tune of your pennies just for that rescue truck. You follow down, you'll see the next one is an HME pumper fire apparatus, 84,000 miles, 7,000 hours, and it's another $1 million truck. We have already taken that one out of service from the fire department and converted it over to the water department for the purchase of outfitting the water department with a diesel truck that has all the equipment that when they arrive, they got the hammer, the nail, the water valve, the meter, everything in one truck. Or the streets guys can have a pressure washer on it. It's got a 750-gallon tank on it. So they can pressure wash stuff all day long with 750 gallons. Well, not really, but you get the picture. So it's not a frontline emergency apparatus, but it doesn't mean that it has to be put out to pasture either. We could try to get some servable, usable life out of this. And then eventually when it's replaced with a smaller model, something less that you can kind of wrap your thoughts around. But it's still $1 million price tag. And then the final red line down there, go figure, is another fire apparatus.
No what?
That's another fire, and another $1 million. Right there, above the line is $3 million. Okay? Some of them from 1999, 2003, and 2007 respectively, right?
Correct.
Now, what you don't see at this point are the 2 trucks that we're currently paying the debt on. How much are we paying that, Jimmy?
$10,864 and a penny per month.
I'm gonna learn not that.
11,000.
11,000.
No, 11,000 a month.
11,000 a month for 2 fire trucks. Why did we buy 2 fire trucks at one time? We didn't have them in a replacement cycle that you had the cyclical budget going stuff. You didn't have a CIP. You're kicking the can down the road. You're trying to figure out where to do it in 1 year's budget. The budget is a spending plan, but it should have part of it should have a capital improvement plan that forecasts out 10 years, not 1 year, 10 years. That's the goal of this CIP program. And so you'll notice here in this kind of orange color, replacing fiscal year, 2016, 2019, 2021, 2022, that's based on mileage, years of service. So our current recommendation is to replace a police vehicle at 7 years or 120,000 miles. Okay? That's very reasonable, by the way. Most of the time it's about 6 years, but it's a little different story here. A public works vehicle, think of Ford F-150, at 15 years and 150,000 miles. You should be able to get 150,000 miles before you start seeing a lot of maintenance requirements. They might have a few dents in the back, but nevertheless, you should be able to see it. So what it does is now I'm going to jump off of this one, or not quite yet, but I'm going to go down here and find the bottom line. Everything above that gray line right there is this year, 2026. You come all the way across. To replace everything, I need $4,608,000 in tomorrow's cost. Okay, so you deduct that or make that 75%, and you come up with today's cost, which is roughly about $3 million. Poof, just like that. Okay, that's 1 year. So on that list if my memory, is right, I think there's like 7 police vehicles on there. A couple public works, a couple, this, that, and the other thing, but the primary thing is the 7 police vehicles. So, if you, how many you got in the fleet? 29 police cruisers? 29, something like that? So you need to replace those on a cyclical cycle. So if you think 29, 7 years, 120,000 miles, 2 of them a year ain't gonna get it. All right, it's just not gonna work.
So how does the 15 that we just purchased play into this?
That causes me to jump over here on this list. See all of these in orange here? All right, all of those are general fund items that you start to deal with. And basically what I'm trying to do is track that change. I'm gonna go over here and change the year to 2032. So if you bought 15, you need to set the stage to where you're doing 6, 7, 6, 7, 6, 7. What this means, everything, what it tells me, right or wrong or indifferent, it's not perfectly accurate, it's not perfect science. What this tells me is that the town needs to consider somewhere to the tune of around $2 million per year in debt as a tool, which means about $220,000 if you finance it over a 10-year period per year, which is equivalent to 3 cents of your tax rate with a current tax value to support that for year 1. Next year, got another $2 million. The year after that, another $2 million. You see where this is going? Okay? And so you're going to have growth in your tax digest equivalent to at least 3 cents every year just to service the debt on the capital replacement program. It's got nothing to do with the cost of diesel fuel going up, nothing to do with bags to pick up litter, nothing to do with that. It's all the facility, the fleet equipment. So this is not perfect science, but you're really trying to think about it. So the cars that you buy in this coming budget will show up on the schedule again in 2032. So if you look at that original copy right here, this department update, and you track all the way down to 2032, look at all them 31s. There's your 32. It says you got a 2.6 debt load in 2032. That's going to go up at least another 1.4, closer to $1 million, because that's going to take its cycle over again. That's the 7-year impact. So it'll repeat and repeat and repeat. Wash, rinse, repeat, wash, rinse. It's going to repeat over and over and over again. And so you can see it coming if you know what you got. And so the only way to know what you got is to go out there and assess that. And so that's what staff has been spending an enormous amount of time trying to figure out hours, mileage, where we're at. We got our street buildings and ground supervisor his truck's about 200,000 miles on it. So it's passed. We just have to take and authorize another $3,000 worth of repairs on it. Can't replace it. Gotta fix it. So Band-Aids, Delling wire, whatever it is to keep some of these things going. So half empty, half full, Mayor, your point. That's as close to real as we can make it. It's just a simple spreadsheet document. And so this board and boards that come after you are going to be dealing with this issue 10 years from now. It's not going to be solved overnight. So what happens when we come to you with a budget asking for $2 million? I can tell you what I'm going to do. We will be filling out an application to get approval of debt from the local government commission. We're going to ask for at least about $1.5 million. We are on the unit assistant list, therefore, if it's something greater than 5 years and $50,000, we have to have LGC approval instead of 3 years and $50,000, instead of 5 years and $500,000. We got to do it. If not, we're just not gonna be able to provide the services without the fleet. You gotta be able to take in man, money, machines, and materials, man, money, machines, and materials, put it all together. And I know it's painful to hear. But imagine crunching these numbers all day, every day, and going, wow, what are we gonna do? So you see that number right there, this is 300,000? That looks like a ray of hope, until you recognize that somewhere, 33, somewhere anything in 27 is gonna fall on 33. So it's gonna, now you're gonna add it back to 33, it's just gonna constantly roll. And that includes fire trucks and everything else. With that, that is the CIP update. You'll see more of that in your budget. I don't know that you've ever seen it.
Correct.
I don't know that it's ever been approached as a capital improvement plan, but it's gonna happen. You know, this is the closest to real. With that, I'll just leave it to you.
Well, Mr. Murray, you said it might be painful, but it's necessary. And what we're doing is we're establishing systems, not just for this program, but for the future. Like you said, we're setting 10-year plans, not 1-year plans. We're looking for 30 years out and not just, next year. So it's, again, labor of love. It's very intense. I'm sure it's very tedious having to go through each individual vehicle to get this done, but we have to do it. We have to see where we are financially so that we're not just preparing for this year, we're preparing for the stability of the future of Spring Lake. So I wish you guys a whole lot of, luck, and that's one of those, not the mayor or not the manager moments. I don't, it'd be your position.
Thanks for reminding me, as a budget officer, I have to recommend a balanced budget.
You do.
I have no choice.
But thank you, again, this is something Spring Lake has not seen. We got here from a lot of neglect and mismanagement, and we're trying to do everything we can to be accountable to our residents, our taxes, or the money that we're putting into our community, the time for our staff, and our manager, who deals with quite a significant amount of repair in our community. But this is a really good thing, so we're working hard to get things done properly so that they can maintain and they'll be sustainable throughout the future. Are there any other questions or comments from the board? It's a big one. We'll now move on to 8E, code enforcement. Mr. Roy?
John, you're gonna use that one. Hold on,
That moves you.
to the next slide.
You've seen this before, minimum housing. I think we heard earlier reference in regards to trailers, mobile homes. This was first shared with you in the past. This is a dilapidated, run-down, vacant mobile home, 17 mobile homes sitting on 2 acres. We've been going through the code enforcement process for this property. And the assessed value is based on the income approach, not the property value approach. So it's based on the amount of income. That's how they determine the ad valorem taxes. So this piece of property delivers $536 to the town of Spring Lake annually for property taxes. I have not assessed what the increase has done to that property value, but if we just make a generalized assumption, say it went up by another half, we'd add another $250,000, $300,000, or somewhere to the tune of about $750,000, $800,000 coming to the city per year. The cost to demolish one mobile home, calculated easy math, not exact, $3,000 to $5,000. And so to demolish and haul off and clean up that property is $51,000 to $85,000. So the process that we use is to identify, and then we have to follow a process that is driven by state statute. We don't get to just go out and do something because we think it's just a good idea. All right? We have to do things because we are we're only empowered to do what the state of North Carolina says we can do. And there's processes. You'll hear us talking about General Statute 160D. You hear us talking about General Statutes 14.4. These are all things that are driven about how you deal with public nuisances, health hazards, and things of that nature in the city, in the town. So if we just keep that low water mark for that one location at 51,000, okay? Just keep it in mind. And this has been open for quite a while. You'll hear me reference R6A zoning quite a bit. These are things that just keep on giving. Yes, they just keep on giving and keep on giving. Sorry, but it is what you're living with. The one on the left, highlighted in yellow, are those same properties on Misty Circle. You'll notice that was updated in February. It says findings of fact. And then the one on the right is updated this week, or last week, April 17th, and it'll say ordinance being prepared. This board will have to adopt an ordinance to demolish this property after going through all of this procedural due process. We can't act without it. So you're going to have to vote an ordinance to spend $51,000 to $80,000. We're going to turn around, clean it up. We're going to put a lien on the property. In this case, it'll be treated just like a tax lien. Where the goal is to recover the cost associated with cleaning up this property. And then if they don't do it, you have the option to foreclose on that property, take that property, and then convert it to public use, all right? Or private use, I'm sorry. And so you're going to spend $51,000 for a property that's giving you $750,000, $800,000 in property taxes. Do the math. The return is not on that investment. The return is what it does to everybody in the community that you're trying to clean up. And so to date, we have the app in play, and the police department, I referenced them earlier, are going around and identifying. We have over 100 properties identified. So which one is the most important?
The one next to your house.
The one next to your house, the one that I see. And so, you know, I rode by, I saw it. We've got over 100 properties so far, and we haven't completed our assessment of the entire town. All right? You've seen the pictures, you've seen what they look like. So we're still working through that process. That enforcement process, this is something else that's interesting. Is if you look at how do we do fees and fines for public nuisances, health hazards, you'll notice up there it says 160A 193 or 160A 175. Those are the laws or the statutes in terms of how cities are created. All right, now I use cities and towns interchangeably, it doesn't matter. There is no legal definition in North Carolina between a city, a town, a village, or whatever, okay? And then you'll notice the one down there says 160A 443. Look at that kind of footnote. 160A 360 through 160A 459 has been repealed by session law. And so some of the enforcement mechanisms that we have been watered down, right? Have been taken away because we can only do what the state says we can do, and that comes through the general statutes. So just because we might want to, don't mean we can. And so there's things that you look at, for example, I'll bring it up, we've heard it already. So right now, the best thing we can do is actually cite someone with a criminal violation, a misdemeanor, for not taking their trash can off the road. That's written into our ordinances. So our process in the past have been knock on the door and beg them to take it out of the road. That's not what the process needs to be. It's time. All right, it's time. How do you take action? What do you do? And it's a misdemeanor charge. It requires a court. You got to do what you got to do. This is that whole statute that I wanted to at least go through. I know it's lengthy and I know it's long. Abatement of public health nuisance. A city shall have the authority to summarily remove, abate, or remedy everything in the city limits or within 1 mile thereof. That's how we start talking about ETJ. Okay, extraterritorial jurisdiction. That is dangerous or prejudicial to public health or public safety. Pursuant to this section, the governing board of any city may order the removal of a swimming pool, and its appurtenances upon a finding that the swimming pool or its appurtenance is dangerous, residential, public health, or safety. So see, this is, what is a public health right hazard? How do you do it? How do you define that? It's important. The expense of the action shall be paid by the person in default. If the expense is not paid, is a lien on the land or premises where the nuisance occurred. A lien established pursuant to this subsection shall have the same priority and be collected as unpaid ad valorem taxes. So these are enforcement mechanisms. The expense of the action is also a lien on any other real property owned by the person in default within the city limits or within 1 mile of the city limits, except for the person's primary residence. A lien established pursuant to this subsection is inferior to all prior liens and shall be collected as a money judgment. This subsection shall not apply if the person involved can show that the nuisance was created solely by the actions of another. You have similar statutes in regard to minimum housing and those things. And so, now think about this. If you're a property owner in the town of Spring Lake and you own multiple properties, and we go and say, okay, you go through the procedural due process, so you have to clean this up, all right? And then we're gonna collect and recover the cost, our taxpayers' cost to clean it up, okay? That lien is gonna attach to all properties. Now, not just one, but all of them. And so, this is heavy duty, I'm telling you, this is a top priority for this town, over 100 properties in terms of water. Carly, can you show me the app, please? I'm gonna take a little bit of liberty here that's kind of, might be a little bit crude, but this came to our app today. If you, it's got some select language in it, but I will share it. It is public information. And so, Carly, can you make that bigger where they can read the note?
I don't think I can.
I really don't want to read it for everybody.
No, because it.
Can you do it? I can't either. I'm just trying to.
Oh, yeah, here I go. I found it. Sorry.
Been abandoned for 30 years. I'll let y'all read it. For the record, there are things you can and cannot do that are not regulated on your property. Okay? And there's nothing we can do about that. Now, there might be some criminal things we can do, but at the end of the day, this is about a property that has been abandoned for 30 years, state of disrepair, not being managed. I went out there today and looked at it. I can tell you that from my position, looking at it, our best effort would be to treat that property as highways and vegetation, not as blight. It's boarded up, it's not falling in, it's not, now is it pretty? No, that's not the point. We don't act on pretty or not pretty. All right, we act on blight. We have the authority to act on blight, but not just because someone doesn't like your house color, or whatever it may be, or what you're doing in the yard. We want to notice these things. We want to be a present. It's going to be huge for the community, but there's just not some things that we can do. That's why I shared this particular one. We can't deal with some of these issues. We might want to, but we just simply can't. Show me a picture or two of that. So see, we have to approach this through minimum housing. That means the building inspector. I have offered and I have an acceptance of hiring a building inspector.
Yes.
I need somebody here day in, day out dealing with these issues. I cannot continue to contract for somebody to come up at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. So we have both the code enforcement arm is outsourcing. I'm going to reduce their hours and convert that over to the building inspector, but I'm going to keep them on in the next year's budget as we continue to grow liens, right? and we addressed that. But I've also offered, and if the position has been accepted by a candidate to be our building inspector, and she is expected to start in a couple of weeks.
That's great.
So, we'll see how that works, so just want to share that with you. That's part of the code enforcement update. We continue to trek. Sometimes it's one step forward, two steps back. We're treading water, we're sinking in the mud, we're doing all of the above, but this is a big issue for this town. And it's gonna take a lot of work, a lot of heavy lifting. It's gonna take support from the community, support from the board, instead of spinning our wheels. That's it for the code enforcement update. I didn't want to go through all those numbers, y'all got that copy. You can spend all the time.
Yeah, that glass may not be half full, it's about a quarter full.
Yeah.
We're starting to put water in the glass. We gotta find the bottle. All right, one more with Mr. Roy Evans, to discuss the dispatch, 911 dispatch services. Mr. Roy?
All right, let me back up to B regarding the strategic plan. Strategic plan, public safety, public safety, public safety. All right, capital improvement plan, public safety, public safety, public safety. Okay, code enforcement update, public safety, public safety, public safety. You see how these things begin to run together? Now, 911 dispatch services agreement, public safety, public safety, public safety. What's missing in all four of these is how you pay for it.
I was gonna say money.
It's how you pay for it. So, I am aware of this.
Yep.
Thank you, Carly. So these are minutes from the same year, 2014. It references a dispatch services agreement that is basically 15 years in the making. For 15 years, the town of Spring Lake has been sending $135,000 to the Emergency Communications Center for Cumberland County. Raw math, I think that's somewhere to the tune of about $2.1 billion over a 15-year period. You'll note here that they redid the agreement back in 2014, and it says that the then manager, Mr. Metcalf, I know him by the way, tried to get the amount reduced without success and recommended board approval. The amount of $135,000 has been the same the entire 15 years. It's never went up. All right. The agreement itself talks about a CPI increase on an annual basis, and we'll talk a little bit about that. But I wanted to share it because it just gets you to thinking about, well, how do we get here? Here's the agreement itself. I recognize it's not the signed copy. It says that for the purpose of continuing consolidation provision of 911 dispatch services by county and for the town, whereas the county's emergency communications center is equipped to provide a central location and serve as a single agency for citizens to make and receive calls for public safety needs, and whereas the town and the county have previously entered into an interlocal agreement by which the town's emergency dispatch services were consolidated into the county's ECC. Now, this is of critical importance for us to start wrapping our thoughts around this. Okay? The county, Cumberland County, has an emergency communications center because it's paid for through general fund and sales tax dollars. Okay? So the county has a emergency communications center because it's paid for general fund ad valorem taxes and sales tax dollars, both of which are paid for by residents of the town of Spring Lake, and residents of Falcon, and residents of Goodwin, and residents of Hope Hills, and residents of Fayetteville, everywhere. So the Emergency Communications Center for Cumberland County is set up and paid for as a general fund item from all taxpayers in Cumberland County. So you have to ask your question, then why are we sending $135,000 a year of Spring Lake taxpayer money to Cumberland County? And is that not double taxation? It is my opinion that is indeed double taxation. So the rate hasn't went up in 15 years because nobody wanted to talk about it. You know? They haven't, the agreement itself said you could do a CPI increase, but nothing, crickets. So why? I don't know. The ECC shall continue to assume and provide public safety and non-emergency dispatch services for the town, period. The town shall pay the county a compensation for the dispatch service to be provided hereunder, the initial amount of $135,000. There's that COLA increase based on CPI, okay, period. 5, if any public safety sales tax is adopted or any equivalent source of funding is provided to the County Emergency Communications Center, then the county will adjust the compensation paid by the town proportionately. I suggest to you that the county's made a decision to switch from population to ad valorem, and it's costing the town of Spring Lake $1.4 million of sales tax revenue that we're gonna have to make up in property tax revenue. And therein lies the dilemma. You pay it in ad valorem tax, you pay it in sales tax. If you look on your phone bill, you pay it in 911 surcharge bill, you pay for capital. You're paying in all these different ways for that service. And you're paying it, you're getting double taxed to do it when we ship it away. The agreement itself says that we can get out of it, but we gotta give them a 12-month notice. So year-end fiscal end would be June 30 of 2026. So it is my recommendation and my request that we send a certified letter to the county manager addressing this issue, that it is our intention to discontinue being double taxed and paying $135,000 for the county to operate the Emergency Communication Center that we're already paying for. Second to that, there are current conversations about consolidation of the 911 centers of Cumberland County and the city of Fayetteville. The question becomes who's going to be in charge, right? So is it going to be run by the county, or is it going to be run by the city of Fayetteville? I personally don't care one way or the other. As long as they provide a high quality service. When the 911 phone rings, somebody answers it based on a benchmark performance standard that are well written and are out there, and they dispatch the services as requested as quickly as possible. I know it's not always as fast as some people would like them to be. But if the Fayetteville got a bond to build a new 911 center, I think there's $30 million or something like that for public safety. If Fayetteville wants to double tax and build another center, that's well within their purview. That would be my recommendation. I think it's important for us to focus on these types of issues, because $140,000 will service 1.4 million. All right, 2 police officers, not 2 dispatchers, 2 police officers, 2 vehicles. Okay, at $70,000 a pop, $60,000 a pop. So if I went forward and just said we're going to borrow $1.4 million, I've already identified the funding for that $1.4 million in year 1. It's not $2 million, but just quit giving it away.
Questions. Do we know what our call volume is for the ECC, and what are they providing any additional services other than
Hundreds of
picking up the phone?
thousands. No, I don't know. I do have it in a document, but it's hundreds of thousands of calls. So the question you have to ask is how many of them are true emergency 911 calls that go through enhanced 911 versus those where they're just a call center asking questions about barking dogs or whatever it may be that are not emergencies. They do track that data. I do not know specifically, but I am sure we can find out how many of them are actually Spring Lake calls.
And is it worth $140,000?
Basically, this agreement was to pay for dispatchers that were housed here. And so when they transferred and consolidated, they said, we'll pick up those employees and we'll keep paying for it.
And Spring Lake's still paying for the personnel. I know in the
Yes.
agreement, it said the contract would pay for personnel cost, but that was originally personnel that was here, and now it's personnel at the county.
That's correct. They were just transferred from here to there.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you. So I know you said you're gonna send a letter stating that we would abide by the agreement to stop payment June 30, 26. But based on the fact that it is double taxation, don't you think we should ask them, tell them that we should be let out of the agreement immediately? Because it is double taxing our people, and I was, when it came up to us and we had to pass it, I wasn't for it. Because like you said, we pay money when we pay for our phones, and we pay the same taxes as every other municipality, so why were we paying again?
That's a good question, and my answer would be yes, we should try to get out earlier, but we still have an agreement that we should.
Yes, I understand, yeah. Okay, thank you.
If we're moving ourselves from this agreement and still paying through the other mechanisms, are they gonna honor our call center requests if they're saying we're not in the agreement anymore, we're no longer?
They have no choice to.
Okay. Commissioner Palacios?
Thank you. So, before we hired you, Mr. Rory, we went through a couple rounds where we interviewed a couple other candidates. One of those candidates, his name was Kerry McDuffie. And Kerry McDuffie, he had made a name for himself in the town of Ahoskie. And one of the things when I was doing research on him as a candidate was that he had ended this exact agreement with his county and helped save the town, some money and help them pay off a lot of their debt. And so when I learned about that, I brought that to this board and I said, this was an option. Why don't we know about it? And I brought it up to the police chief at the time, and he said, give me some information. And I got him the information, and then nothing else came of it. And so that was, in 2019 that came out. In 2021, it was a news article. Anybody can find it on Google. And then over the last 3 years, I brought this up about this plan, and it was just because we have to. We need to pay because we have to. And it might be, I don't think anybody meant anything ill of it. I just think the question needed to be asked more. And so I appreciate you having that back, to carry this further. So I am in total agreement and in this agreement. That's it.
We have shared this with the 911 Consolidation Committee as well Thursday about our intent.
Do they provide any feedback?
No.
Mayor Pro Tem?
Thank
What
you.
was the question?
Did they provide any feedback?
Okay.
So I want to echo, because I actually got the emails that were shared with Ahoskie, because I know the mayor really well. And yes, Mr. McDuffie did get them out of that agreement, and I wasn't in favor of us. There's also some other monies I think we're paying to the sheriff's department that we might want to look at pulling back as well. I think I have that contract on my computer, but I'll send it to you if I can find it.
I don't know of any funds that we're paying to the sheriff's department.
You sure?
After a year, I know of no funds that we're paying to the sheriff's department. Go ahead.
Yes, sir, we do.
Okay.
What we pay to the sheriff's office is the use of their server for our report writing system that is shared by, so like Fayetteville City Police Department has their own server. If we were to go out and buy our own server, not to pay a small portion to the county to piggyback off them, that server, as I understand it, will cost in excess of $1 million just for a server. So for a small fraction of that, the sheriff's office, through an agreement with the sheriff, allows us to use his server for our report writing.
But there was something else in that agreement other than just the use of the server. I felt like there was the payment of staff to maintain.
Sure. So if we have IT issues, it's all like you said, everything's connected. If we have IT issues, we do pay for services for county personnel to come and do our IT services that are separate from what Chris does for us. That's dedicated to the DCI messaging, the DCI, FBI, criminal histories, driver's histories, and that sort of thing. It's classified information.
So thank you. Yeah.
Commissioner Palacios?
Is that the 160,000? How much are we paying
Yeah, it was,
for the server rent lease or whatever?
If I want to say it's like 50,000.
50, okay.
But I have to look at the document. I don't remember. Like Mr. Roy, I got a lot of numbers in the last 30 days. I don't recall.
yeah.
I don't want anybody to think that I'm suggesting that we don't collaborate and work with the county or the city of Fayetteville or our local municipalities, or our regional governments, or whatever they need to be. But we need to be thinking about the interests of Spring Lake. And I don't think some of these things have been focused that way. I guess is the best way to put it.
Any other questions or comments from the board? All right, well, I'll now entertain a motion to approve or deny terminating the 911 dispatch services agreement. Mayor Pro Tem? So moved. Commissioner Palacios?
Second?
Any discussion?
I would like to add that we attempt to end it earlier than the 2026 deadline.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Oh, Madam Clerk?
Was that a motion to approve or deny?
She said approve.
Oh, I didn't hear her say approve. Okay, thank you.
I just wanted to add something.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. A few updates from me. We will be leaving, myself, Mayor Pro Tem, and Commissioner Chadwick will be leaving for City Vision in Greenville, North Carolina tomorrow morning for some additional training and access to resources. So I'm super excited about that. It always is filled with tons of useful information and access to vendors that we normally don't see on a daily basis. So a very vital asset for us. Myself, Mayor and Mayor Pro Tem attended a newly scheduled monthly meeting with Fayetteville and Hope Mills manager, mayor, and Mayor Pro Tem. This is something that will be occurring regularly so that we can start discussing regional plans and how we can, as the three largest municipalities in Cumberland County, can work together to share resources, problem solve, and brainstorm better for the community. So you'll hear more updates coming from that as we continue to meet. I also want to make sure that, and remind you again, of using the app for issues. I wanted to talk to Mr. Reggie, but he stepped out, but it seemed like that field of debris was kind of large. So I want to make sure that when we see stuff like that or we're having issues, take pictures of it on the app. That way we can get it to our manager or the appropriate staff department to address that. The app is available on the App Store for Apple and Android, so please, please, please make use of the app to report issues in the town. And that is all I have. Mayor Pro Tem?
Yes, well, one thing I have is, I'll be also, as you stated, be going to City Vision. We're leaving early in the morning, and I'm always excited to learn and network with my fellow elected. The mayor and myself will be recognized. Will be recognized for the learning that we have done. If you achieve so many classes, then you're recognized on stage at the conference. So she and I will be recognized for that. Again, I'm excited. That's all I have.
Commissioner Thompson?
The only thing I have is coming up Saturday at 8 a.m. Registration, well, pre-registration starts for the Special Olympics walk or run. 9 a.m. the walk will begin. $25 donation for t-shirts, and rain out date is scheduled for 10 May. And it will meet up at 201 South Main Street at First Baptist Church. And that's all I have.
Awesome. Commissioner Lockwood?
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. Rory broke my heart when you talked about the bucket truck. But, I understand that. There are other avenues instead of spending $100,000.
Yeah.
There could be rentals or agreements between counties and other municipalities for those days that we're looking to do that. But with the banner program, we still have 17 people that need to come in and sign their agreement to have their banner flown for their second consecutive year. There's no charge in that, but they just need to come in and sign a waiver that the town is not held liable in case the banner gets blown away, gets stolen, gets ripped, torn. So those 17 people, if we don't hear back from them, Carly, we may need to reach out and let them know that they need to do that, so the banner can be flown again, because that's the purpose of the banner program. In addition, Commissioner Thompson talked about the police having the walk run this Saturday. We also have cleanup this Saturday, so got a dueling competing events that are going on, but we will continue with our cleanup. We are gathering momentum with that. The Adopt a Street program that's out there has been wonderful, getting organizations and groups to help clean up our town and to make it better. Has been a wonderful labor of love over the last several years as we've gone forward with that. I'd also like to thank Pastor Steve England with the Swim Lake Ministerial Alliance. There's going to be the National Day of Prayer, Thursday, May 1st. They will get to be, I'm jealous. They are getting to be the first. I'm jealous that they're getting to be the first to use Spring Lake's Veteran Park, even before we get to use it. So I'm a little bit jealous on that, Pastor. But it is going for a great cause, and I'm glad that park is being utilized for its intended purposes, and glad that it is a community place that we can bring together some unity and bring things back to Spring Lake. So a little bit jealous, but I'm glad that it is taking place. And Mr. Roy, that park is looking so good. The town employees, as you said, are not out there laying sod. They're building a park, and they have been building a park. And seeing that sidewalk as it is now starting to connect, that sidewalk is starting to connect the town. So it is coming along very well. So I just want to tell you and the staff that have participated, worked hard to make this a wonderful bringing together of our residents and our town employees and our board members. So thank you, thank all of you for that. So you said, you know, I work, I got a job that I attend everything I possibly can, but I appreciate the offer. That's all I have there.
Awesome. Okay. And I just wanted to echo that. I don't know if you guys paid attention coming in off of Main Street to Ruth Street. You see those new additions for the sidewalk coming in. That's going to be really, really nice. So it's still a little sunlight out. Make sure you check that out and see our new additions coming. Commissioner Palacios.
Thank you, Mayor. So the Appearance Committee has their meeting the second Wednesday, which is May 14th. And I'm bringing that up early only just to highlight that we're going to have the artists there at that meeting for the upcoming mural at the Mendoza Park building.
Yes.
And speaking of Mendoza Park, that seems to be finally coming along. Mm-hmm. I expect that we're going to have an update from Mr. Gibson in a couple of weeks here at Town Hall for our upcoming meeting. And so I look forward to that. I'm sure everybody is ready for Mendoza Park to be completed. And that was it. Thank you.
Awesome. I cannot wait to see this mural. I know the kids are gonna love it. That wall at Mendoza Park has a big problem with being defaced with graffiti. But we've seen that, they're respecting the murals on Main Street. So I'm really, really confident that that's gonna continue to instill more pride in our community. So great location. Commissioner Travis?
Well, they say the best for last, but unfortunately, I don't have any updates.
Mr. Rory? All right. If that is all we have, I'll now entertain a motion to go into closed session pursuant to NCGS 143-318-11A3, attorney-client privilege. Commissioner, or Mayor Pro Tem, so moved. Is there Commissioner Chapman?
I said one. I said.
All in favor? Aye. Motion carried. We're now in closed session. Thank you all for coming out. We really appreciate you.
No time to get tired now, time to go home.
Tired of days. See, I was moving this morning.
You matched the photo.
Thank you, Commissioner Palacios.
You matched the photo.
All right, and I entertain a motion to come out of closed session. Commissioner Chadwick? Mayor Pro Tem?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Motion carries and meeting adjourned.
Go home.
That was the smartest decision we ever made.
I want y'all to, I don't know how much like that.